This is Scary Terry's Saturday Nightmare from Rock 94.7.
Welcome to 13 Questions on Scary Terry's Saturday Nightmare. Tonight's guest is Mark Barney Greenway, lead vocalist of the legendary founding fathers of grindcore, Napalm Death. They're releasing their 14th album, Utilitarian, on February 28th. Barney, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much. I'm not sure I'm worthy of that introduction, to be honest.
Come on, Barney, take some credit here.
But there you go.
Now, Barney, my first question for you. Several past Napalm Death albums have had an overarching theme running through the songs. Is that the case with Utilitarian?
Yeah, I mean, we generally sort of, we try and make everything sort of under the umbrella of a certain album title. And it's difficult sometimes, to be honest. I mean, you know, some songs on albums tend to be tighter than others to the title. And this one's no different, I would suspect. But yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, I don't know. It just always seems to work out in the end, I guess, you know.
Do you guys tend to start off with that theme, or does the theme develop organically as you're composing?
It depends, really. I mean, I remember albums where I didn't get the title till halfway through, but most of the time I already actually have it in the first place. And I will actually have 3 or 4 titles usually, and I'll actually the first three or 4 that I have, I'll totally junk them because I'll just think not good enough, okay, but then in the end not good enough, and then I'll junk them all together, and I'll start afresh. This time around, I mean, usually you get mental blockages and stuff like that. That's pretty standard. But this time around, it did take me a while to get the title, actually. I had a couple of things that I ran by the other guys which sounded quite good to me in the first instance. But then when I put them to the other guys and they went, you know, and then I went away and I thought about it and I was like, not really, you know. So it took a little while to get there, but it wasn't like too long and drawn out, so it was okay in the end.
Do you have a certain go-to technique for breaking through that writer's block? Is there something that works for you every time when it comes to cutting through that?
I just have to literally walk away from it for a couple of days, and that's really hard for me because I'm the sort of person when I get my teeth into something, I need the results. You know what I mean? I need to get something, you know. But I have literally sat there, and I'm sure this is how anybody that's in a band will understand this. I've sat there for 2-3 days sometimes with a blank sheet of paper in front of me, sat down. I mean, with the phone unplugged, with the blinds drawn, because that's how I write. I'm in complete isolation, you know, and nothing's come out. I've just sat there, and in the end, I've driven myself nuts because I've sort of applied myself so hard that it's actually been counterproductive, you know. And then I have to walk away. Sometimes it can be a day. Sometimes it gets into 2 days. But when it gets into 2 days, I generally sort of go, well, you know what? May as well leave it a 3rd day and give myself time to, you know, go away and revisit again. And usually when I do that, then things start rolling again. You know, it's quite a frustrating thing, you know, because Napalm Death has always been a band of spontaneity. So when you can't get that spontaneity, when you can't get things flowing along, I get quite frustrated, I have to be honest.
Well, being able to walk away from it and look at it again with fresh new eyes. I think I write commercials for the radio station in addition to this, and I run into writer's block, regularly, and I think that taking that time away, taking a walk around the block or something, sometimes that's all you need, you know. Yeah,
it does. But also within that though, I will actually, even when I know that's the right thing to do, I will sit there and go, no, I know there's something there. I know it's something there. And it's almost if I walk away at that instant, it's like everything's going to drop out of my head and into the toilet or something, you know.
Or you think you might have some workaholic tendencies?
Perhaps a little bit, but, you know, of course, the real paradox about that is that I try to be a person that steps away from things in general, you know, and take my head out of things altogether. But when it comes to writing music, I don't know, I'm just like a limpet, you know what I mean? I just stick onto it until something works, in the end.
You're listening to 13 Questions with Scary Terry's Saturday Nightmare. We're a 3-hour metal show heard every single Saturday night from 9 until midnight on Rock 94.7, 102.9 in central Wisconsin, and also online worldwide at rock947.com/listen-live. Our guest tonight is Mark Barney Greenway, lead vocalist of Napalm Death.
Now, Barney, in a late summer interview, late 2011 with Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles, your bassist Shane said that you were trying some different things vocally on Utilitarian. Now, is this going to be the album where Barney croons?
No, what Shane meant with that really is that, that it's Napalm Death. We're not reinventing the wheel. That's not our intention. That's not to say that we make generic albums, but we have certain stylistics that are quite varied, quite sort of wide ranging, but it's all, there's always going to be a definite sound to things, to anything we do that's quite instantly recognisable. What the difference with this one is, I've used influences that have been there for many years, actually go back to the Scum era, and it's influences that people don't always necessarily directly associate with bands that have metal or hardcore punk or grindcore influences, which is the more ambient side to the band, which is influenced by bands from the 80s, like post-punk bands such as Jesus and Mary Chain, Swans from New York, Birthday Party, My Bloody Valentine, Sonic Youth, bands like that. Those bands are a very sort of significant influence on Napalm. But what we've tended to do with those influences in the past is keep them to the more slow and sort of ambient side of the band, which has always seemed like the natural home for that sort of stuff. But what I decided to do with this album is to arrange those influences, the stuff with those influences, within the faster stuff, the really, really fast stuff. And at first I wasn't sure whether the two would mix, but they did. When I tried it, it sounded really good. So that was kind of another kind of direction. Although, like I say, the influences weren't entirely removed from what we usually do. Mm-hmm. They were arranged slightly differently, so that gives you the contrast. That's why people might think this album perhaps sounds a little different, say perhaps compared to the last three or something, I don't know.
Speaking of your vocals now, how is it that you're able to speak after singing this stuff for all these years? I
don't know, I'm lucky. I guess I have... I guess my sort of anatomy, in my throat just really stands up quite well. That's all I can really put it down to. But I actually sing like a singer would, like a pop singer would. That's really the secret to, I'm not kidding. I sing, with the technique I use is to sing from the diaphragm. I kind of self-taught how to do that. Not through these... instructional videos that you see, but I just learned how to do that, and that really helps because it limits any prospective damage on your throat muscles and your vocal cords. Because the sort of screaming that I do, which is full level, full pelt, I don't cheat. When I sing at full pelt. There are some singers that don't do that, mm-hmm. but I always sing at full pelt. So I need to have that technique, and it works. It really works because it stops any damage, The only time I really have problems is, for example, in Spain, on the last tour, I was really affected because they're still allowed to smoke in clubs in Spain, although I've heard they've since actually stopped that over the last couple of months, but they were still smoking in clubs at the time. And I had quite a bad chest infection anyway, and then the smoke that was in the clubs actually really messed with me, and I ended up being not able to breathe, actually. I had to come off stage. It's only the first or second time I ever had to do that. And I really was having trouble. I couldn't get my breath, And so they actually called an ambulance, and because I couldn't breathe, and they gave me oxygen and stuff. Cause,
Jeez.
I mean, I got to admit, I was actually really frightened. You know, it was a really, it was not a pleasant experience. You know, I actually couldn't get a breath. It felt like my throat had closed up, but it was just because the infection had got in there. You know, so it's nothing that I do on stage that usually messes with me. It's if I get like a really bad cold and a chest infection, and I've actually had pneumonia like 2 or 3 times when I've been on tour. So of course, that's something that's never going to help.
Well, no, not at all. Well, I will have you know that the state of Wisconsin banned smoking in all indoor facilities. So if you do come to play for us at some point, you'll be totally safe.
But I always trust Wisconsin anyway. I've got good unions, good labour unions in Wisconsin. Love them, you know. So.
Barney, some of our listeners who may not be as familiar with the death metal scene and the grindcore scene, they may have heard your voice for the very first time on Volbeat's latest album on the song Evelyn. How did you hook up with those guys?
They're just friends, you know. I mean, it's really crazy with them because I know they've kind of gotten some attention in the US now, but in Europe they went from like tiny to huge over a very short space of time. And I mean huge, you know. But so it was really strange actually because we got friends with them. I can't remember. They're really sort of quite like Napalm quite a bit, and we did a couple of festivals with them, and they basically we had a problem at one of the festivals. Mitch broke a string or a couple of strings, I think, and they sort of really helped us out. They rushed away and got us some strings out of their own string supply, and you know, sorted us out. And they're actually like really, really nice people. You know, sort of people you could consider as friends. You know, like I just got to know them. You know, and I got to know Michael. And when it came around to do their new album, he just asked me if I'd sing, and I said, "Yeah, okay, if that's what you want." You know. I mean, obviously, it was slightly strange at first because what they're doing is quite... even though the song that they asked me to co-write and sing on was one of the heaviest kind of songs on the album, it was still, you could say, it'd be fair to say, a polar opposite. You know?
Oh, yeah, definitely a departure, yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I did it, and I did it all in one take. You know, it was all pretty much in one take, and they loved it, you know, and... what I thought was really strange is apparently a lot of people around the band said they thought it was like probably the best song on the album. And, you know, and I was like, no, you know, I was like, you know, I just, things like that always leave me kind of scratching my head a little bit, you know what I mean? But, you know, it was good fun, you know, and, yeah, you know, it is what it is, you know, so.